Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to, good Lord, that's fast. My God. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Whole Magazine. I am your host, Brandon, and joining me is Nate. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. You?
I'm doing great. We have episode 57 here, recording on a Wednesday night, as is our production quota. Tonight, for the show, we have Trudeau is out. We figure out the strategic value of making Greenland a U.S. territory. We take tally of the terrorist attacks in America, and we talk about someone having a negligent discharge during a podcast recording.
Gotta watch the consonants.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They messed me up.
they gonna trip you up, bro.
They tripped me up. But before we get into all that,
They finna trip you up.
before we get into all that, go ahead and check out the website, thewholemag.com, where we have a bunch of awesome articles for you to check out here. Don't forget to check out the Facebook, the X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter to me, just so long as you know what I'm talking about. We also have the show's also available on YouTube, folks. So don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a comment with some questions, and we'll be sure to answer them in the next episode. For you guys listening at home, whether it be on your drive to work, be careful, because the stuff we're talking about might trigger some homicidal tendencies, and we want to make sure you get home safe. But you're also missing a segment of the show. You're missing the visual aspect, where we showcase things that we find online, videos, articles, etc. So if you want to have that experience, make sure you drop on by and check us out on the YouTube.
Yeah, if anyone's wondering, the Whole Magazine is no longer a listener-friendly podcast. This is now a eyeball-friendly podcast only. Pretty soon, we'll never even do audio. It's just going to be video.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do
video,
sign language, and closed captions. That's it.
That's it. We're going to force you to read.
You're out of luck.
Not our problem.
You're up the creek, brother.
So credit where credit's due. Nathan, in a fury of inspiration, compiled pretty much everything here on the cut sheet today. So it's an honor to have.
It was kind of it was easy. The last topic I saw watching the news with my mom.
Powerful.
That was, and I'm not home often, and I don't watch the news often. It's very frustrating watching like corporate media, even if it is Fox. But this time they just had a real gem, and we got a video of that. It's great. It's great.
Which we'll get to momentarily. First, Trudeau.
He's gone. Yep. Totally done.
He seems to have finally gotten the message that Canada doesn't like him.
It wasn't just that. I think in his little speech on the porch, it was really like, it didn't even feel like a head of state was like leaving anywhere. Didn't feel important. Didn't feel super solemn. It seemed very chill. And maybe, and as much as I hate the guy, maybe it really is like,
that's just Trudeau, though.
Maybe it's just the burden of leadership. He's slowly letting it leave his shoulders. So maybe it's like he's finally just chilling the fuck out.
I believe he's just AI generated. I don't think Trudeau's actually a real person.
There's a lot of people,
sounds super unnatural.
There's a lot of people in Canada that don't believe he's completely in charge. Not like the way Joe Biden was in charge.
Right.
But like there's a lot of more important and a lot of more influential and a lot more, I guess, crazy people like running the show at times. Not always. It's kind of a fringe thing, even in Canadian right-wing circles. But some people believe he's not totally there. What with his divorce and all the allegations of being kind of fruity, the allegations of smoking cocaine in front of an Indian delegate or ambassador.
Incredible.
On an airplane together. Yeah, the guy's probably like, the sort of person that would call the lifeblood of your economy terrorists and then freezing their money. It's not exactly like, you're not a chill person when you do shit like that.
Referencing, of course, the whole attack on truck drivers.
And I'm not just saying that because he's a liberal. I'm saying that if I was, Mussolini for a day and I did that to my, ideological enemies, I wouldn't be chill, right? I'm not saying I'm chill. I'm just saying I know non-chill people when I see them. And I didn't recognize that Trudeau was very calm, very like genuinely calm. The one comment he made that was interesting out of everything, because there was a lot of, oh, it's been so great leading the country. It'll be so exciting to see the democratic process occur. Whatever, bro. The one thing that was interesting was how he barely kind of mentioned that he didn't want to be anything but lockstep with the party, in the way that if he stayed on, it seemed like he was expecting, I don't know how the elections work in Canada, but I'm assuming it's similar down here, right? Where it's a primary process before a general election. It sounds like there might have been enough dissent in the Liberal Party, both on the vanguard left and the closer to the center left. Both sides might have been challenging him, which is weird to consider. Trudeau is the center of the party, not a centrist, but the center. So that's really interesting.
It is
a lot of that's
strange because he has had like this, massive history of just absolutely ruining Canada. He has done so many things that were just fundamentally against the Canadian people. We rethink the whole truck driver protests, and they were deemed terrorists. And you already mentioned their whole frozen assets and everything like that, because it's just tyrannical, and that's the left for you folks. That's the left. That's how they will love to run the country. And don't think that, oh, that was just Canada. No, Canada is America's evil top hat. Like, they're practically already us.
In a lot of ways they are, right?
We are just a few like decades, or like we're a few years behind them. Usually it sort of trickles down the wall and into our food. That's just the way things have been going for the past like 10 years.
I'm going to argue with you on this point. I had the same conversation with my dad the other day, actually. Because again, the Canada thing was in the news. Canada is not the source of any of this stuff that right. currently ails us, right? The most American source that you can find is Berkeley, right? Where the Frankfurt School developed, they left Europe, came to California, and the most beautiful place on earth, and they were just the most miserable little dorks in tweed jackets, just humbugging about, just saying, oh, isn't this awful? Isn't this place terrible? And they created this thing called critical theory. That should sound familiar to a lot of listeners now. But the thing is, that is either an American problem or it's an imported problem America has. We imported it no less than 60 years ago. Mm-hmm. Canada is not the source. Now, it's true that there's some stupid stuff that like they'll think of, and then our liberals will think of, or they'll start repeating. But it's not, to me.
Don't get me. I agree with you. I get exactly what you're saying, and don't get me wrong. It's not every problem that we're facing nowadays is because of Canada. Mostly, Canada serves as a sort of metric to see just how far away the bullshit is that's going to eventually trickle down into the United States. Like, we already have, like, their whole MAID thing, which is a euphemism for killing people or helping them kill themselves. Mm-hmm. Medical assistance in dying, as it's called. Yeah, it's called assisted suicide. I believe that's en route to the US. Apparently some states, it's actually legal already. Assisted suicide is a thing in the States already. It
was unthinkable. I can't remember the year the first Futurama episode aired, but the suicide booth, right? The idea that the future was so cool, so interesting, and yet people still wanted to kill themselves, but they just didn't have the time to buy their own gun or to slash their own throat. So they had to get a quarter or a nickel and go to the suicide booth on the side of the end of the street, right? That was the joke, right? And of course, an idiot from the 20th century, not knowing where he is, thinking it's a phone, can't read, and then a suicidal robot. What a great joke. Now it's like, it's funny because it's happening.
And that's why rewatching Demolition Man is so funny every single year.
Every year it gets smarter.
We're still due for it.
We are. You know what? That should be a Mystery Science Theater, like 9,000 style video we ought to do.
Yeah, it would be a special. It would be a special video, one of our specials. An upcoming whole magazine special would be the crew watching Demolition Man together. and noting how similar things have gotten. We'll all have to do a lot of cutting and stuff like that for purposes, but that's
You know
besides
what
the
we
point.
could do? We could do an audio track that you could play at the same time as the movie, but we could release footage of clips of us reacting to it.
So long as the majority of the content is talking about it, it is under fair use.
Or screaming and laughing and crying.
So that is something that we can, of course, do.
Yeah.
Trudeau, at least he had the gumption, I guess, to bow out. I think it wasn't so much as giving the Canadian people what he wanted, because if that was the case, he would have been out a long time ago. It's more or less to do with Trump's president. He's going to be president again.
He can't take another 4 years.
And he can't handle it. He can't handle his Trump as a neighbor again.
This little crybaby was like the premier of Canada for 9 years. He's basically Mao Zedong in North America, right? But he can't handle. He's only got one more term to deal with. Can't handle it. Whatever, man.
Can't handle it.
I'd like to think that Trump's election has some part of it, but it really does seem like it's internal politicking within the Liberal Party of Canada.
This is something true. If you're Canadian, please enlighten us. Go ahead and give us the inside scoop on what the current political situation is and what your thoughts are as to why Trudeau did what he did.
I'm the only person on the team that listens to a Canadian podcast. Can't mention them by name, but they're a bunch of schizos, and that's why I actually listen to them. They're phenomenal. But
do you know what I'm missing?
What?
I'm missing a drink. I don't have a drink.
Me neither.
Damn.
But I'm all out.
You're all out?
I'm all out, baby.
Jesus, hold on.
Well, you know how it is when you move.
One moment. I have to get a drink. Okay, back to business.
I lied, I have water.
Okay, so also another thing to mention, we are currently in the works of doing the conceptualization phase. We're in the conceptualization phase of another show that we're adding to the whole magazine network, which will be a military-focused and military-centric show. I'm
veteran and service-related.
Veteran, service-related. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, so keep an eye out. Of course, follow us on the socials. Get updates. Also, we're going to start releasing these whole live segments, these whole live recordings. Keep an eye out, because you'll be able to join the audience live. The only way to do that is, of course, to follow us on the socials. But I digress. Again, if you're Canadian, please go ahead and let us know in the comment section.
Yeah, no, it would be great to know more about our northern neighbor, especially as you suffer in the way that we're going to in the future.
The whole magazine is whole philosophy is discussion. Let's have a discussion. Trump proposed a very funny thing in the vein of discussion, right? Mm-hmm. The proposal of buying Greenland.
Again. This
is interesting.
Again, it's strange. Like, okay, now, full disclosure, cards on the table. I'm not the biggest Trump fan not because he's too mean, but because he's not mean enough. He doesn't go hard enough. Sometimes his boomerisms are usually his gut's in the right place, but sometimes that boomerish, mentality kind of steers him the wrong way. Sure, I'm making perfect the enemy of the good, but that's just how I'm wired. This doesn't, to me, Brandon, make a whole lot of sense. We already have forces status arrangements with Denmark, which Greenland is a protectorate of. It's a protectorate of Denmark. And we already have one or two bases out there staffed with primarily U.S. Air Force, U.S. Space Force personnel, but there are NATO ventures out there. I forget the one at the Capitol, but Pentufik or Thule, I forget what it's called now. That's a PAVPAW site. So the only strategic value of the whole island, and it's a big one, it's sparsely populated, is the over-the-horizon, early warning advantage it gives us. The only thing that would give us more warning would be an instantaneous warning from a satellite above or at least observing a launch site, which we do that anyway. But again, multiple layers, multiple sensors, you want it all just to make sure to deconflict any errors or whatever. But I feel like this doesn't make a lot of sense, because the strategic value is already being squeezed, and it doesn't cost us any more money than, say, if Greenland was an unincorporated territory or state.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. Trying to isolate the real utility in having Greenland be a U.S. territory is lost on me. I can't justify it through an economic increase in benefit to the United States. There are resources there, but the return on investment that would have to be invested into that initially is just
Yeah,
not there.
I'll
Granted,
say,
presidential grand scheme of things on the economy do take years to actually effectuate and actually make
yeah,
their mark, but this just doesn't seem like
the
a
the
very beneficial thing for the United States.
there might be, and I'm thinking about this on the spot, there might be some value in the idea, not the actual implementation, which is Denmark, of course, would never agree to such a thing. That's absurd. It's a not only would it be embarrassing, but it would also be us stepping on the sovereignty of a NATO partner, or what I think they're a NATO partner. If they're not, that's strange. But it would be a European power nevertheless. And perhaps, I mean, here's the worst case scenario, right? For Washington, this would be very embarrassing if we led a military intervention into Greenland. That'd be very embarrassing for Washington because it's for 2 years, 3 years now been screaming and kvetching about Ukraine.
Mm.
So all of a sudden that goes out the window. Clearly the moral, of course, if anyone has any real sense of what's going on, we already are not on the moral, or sorry, Washington is not on the moral high ground already. But then the emperor truly would have no clothes and all would see it. It would be so brazen and nakedly like backwards to what Washington has been saying this whole time if we
I,
did such a thing.
I,
So that's not on the table. But I wonder if the threat of this crazy Western cowboy dude saying, "Yeah, we're going to take Greenland," maybe might be another way to pressure NATO and being like, "Well, look, we need Greenland because there's so many Russian assets floating around there, and we can't do stuff." Not true. We have agreements, but to them, he's a wild-eyed, crazy man, and who knows what he'll do if we don't appease him. So maybe we'll
it's
increase
interesting.
NATO spending.
I also saw a video of, I believe, a mayor or some person in Greenland saying that they would be happy to take Trump because the economy in Greenland is
Yeah,
stagnant, it's immobile because the people in charge don't care to fix it. They don't want to invest anything into it. So it is interesting, and I would like to hear more on that. It's definitely from, it seems like your perspective as well. We're both in agreement that it just doesn't make any sense as far as a national security standpoint,
yeah.
as far as a financial or economic standpoint. And my only thing that's remaining is to kind of, I believe, stir the shit pot with adversarial nations.
Yeah.
Russia getting more
Maybe adversarial friendly nations.
maybe, yeah, because that's the only thing that's left really is,
Yeah.
that's always another option. In the grand scheme of things, stirring the shit pot is always an option.
And he's very good at it,
He's very good.
or maybe he's the only one who's done it in such a long time. We don't know what good shit stirring looks like, and we're just left with Trump.
Well,
That
remember
might
for the past
that
four
might
years, we had been given the everything's fine and you're just dumb and illiterate and you don't know what you're looking at and you believe the stupid things. No, everything's great. The economy's actually getting better.
yeah.
Well, the reason why you're paying so much money for groceries and gas is because of the previous guy. No, 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 don't look at your watch. We know it's 2024
Hmm.
in the summer. We know that, but it was the previous guy. Same old Democrat music, right? You wanted to bring us into a tally. I actually agree. There's been a lot. There's been a lot.
I'm gonna.
What are we using as the definition here of terrorist attack?
Well, it would have to be political in some nature, but frankly, I'm at the point myself, and I'm gonna watch what I say here. I would be willing to count even gang violence in some contexts, both cartel drug related or just certain random shootings, like all the way up north in Chicago. Like at some point, it's not just criminal behavior. It's not just moment of passion. That there's because you remember when Rittenhouse was acquitted by a jury.
Yeah.
And it was 2 or 3 days later, Daryl Brooks slammed his car through a Christmas parade, right? And not only could you find him his SoundCloud and YouTube channels, because he was an aspiring rapper or artist, had some pretty derogatory things to say about some of his countrymen. And it was, if you just read the words without even listening to it, like, it sounded very political. The idea that it's just a coincidence that he says those things and Rittenhouse was acquitted, that doesn't strike me as likely that it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
To me, that's terrorism. So it's not just irresponsible driving. It's not just a fit of anger, taking it out on a crowd of people. It's happened before. I don't see it. I don't see that one as one. I see that as an attack,
Yeah,
a political one. So
fair.
It's weird because I do count false flags, but not by the perpetrator, but by who's most likely to gain something from it, if you could even discern such a thing.
Right.
Because then you're getting into like mega speculation land.
Yeah. So what do you have us at? What is the tally that you have us figured out?
I am going to shock you. The tally I have is 0 because I did no work on this. I completely spaced because I was reading into the Greenland thing. I was really trying to make sure.
Is so amazing.
I was really trying to make sure I understood at least some of the politics in Canada. So
that's good.
Live on the show, we have theoretically the Trump Tower thing in
right
Vegas, which is weird. That one's really weird.
Bourbon Street, New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans. Wasn't there one in New York just recently, or was that somewhere else?
I would argue that Luigi. Yeah, that would be a terrorist attack.
Yeah, I guess it technically would be. And there's one more car attack, wasn't there? New Orleans, and there's one more.
Was there?
Let's see.
Another car attack.
Let me check. Very sorry to do this live. I feel very silly.
That's the magic of editing. And no one's watching right now.
Maybe
Heck, if it was live, people would be giving us information.
That's true. Chat, is this real?
Chat, is this real? Start sounding like
I need to start saying that. I just need to start saying that just randomly. Maybe it was just New Orleans. I could have sworn there was a second New Orleans style truck of peace attack.
Truck of peace.
Maybe I'm just I have like the jitters, the Vietnam flashbacks of Europe and the previous years in America. But it's interesting because this is getting more and more common.
It is definitely.
Here's a question for you. How soon do you? And it's not a fair question, but roll with it. How soon do you think? How would you speculate upon how quickly we might see legislation banning assault vehicles? I mean, it's kind of an easy question. I don't know what you're laughing about. Because, look, the guy wouldn't have murdered anybody if he didn't have access.
If it was illegal, yeah.
I mean, I think we might need more background checks on driver's licenses because, they just hand those shits out willy nilly. So, I don't know.
Universal background checks for people who want to rent a car.
No more private sellers selling cars.
Private sellers. You have to be a certified location.
We need to have
compliance. Any sort of ledger.
We need to have
fuck ups.
To have a maximum capacity of 8 liters in a gas tank. No more. No one needs to drive any further than a couple blocks. Right? There's gas stations everywhere. You can just fill up. It's not a big deal. You can carry cans on.
You should not be able to drive no more from Colorado over to Las Vegas. Should not be able to do that. Interstate transfer of these assault vehicles is also illegal.
Any sort of special muffler that makes the ride quieter.
You can't do that.
We need to have a federal registry of those items that we don't regulate.
They can't be getting away with this.
No, the manufacturers and the insurers. The insurers are at fault here too, right?
Everyone could get sued, and everyone's held liable for other people's actions when they use their vehicles.
Unlike lawful gun owners and lawful gun producers and sellers in this country, auto manufacturers and drivers both have insurance. Why aren't the insurance companies squeezing the people that do this and everyone else that didn't do it and just making it worse? I don't understand. There's plenty of ways to make this go away. Cars kill more people than swimming pools and guns and autoerotic asphyxiation, but no one's doing anything about it.
And in the vein of speaking of this legislation, personally, if you have a negligent discharge on a podcast show, I think you should. If you're a gun tuber, you probably shouldn't be a gun tuber anymore.
Oh, this guy is not a gun tuber.
Oh, good.
You don't know? Oh, you didn't watch it yet?
No. Why would I do that? When people bring stuff on the show, I do not watch it.
Okay, let me
open it up. I do not bring stuff. If you bring something on the show, I will not watch it until it's the showtime.
All right, let me share my screen for you there. All right, close your eyes. Don't look at the title. Oh, I don't like how that turned out. 1 second. I'm going to change. You know what? That should be fine. All right, you ready?
Did he shoot himself in the leg? That's incredible.
I want to bring us to... I want to bring us to the moment it happens. I'm gonna.
Ooh! What? He felt that. He felt that shockwave in the testes. He felt the shockwave in the boys.
Man, maybe it's the wrong video because sometimes you can see the flash. It would be right here.
Hey, folks.
We've never done that.
Firearm.
We've never done that. We've had. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7. We've had up to 7 firearms in the studio at one time on one recording.
Yep.
No live ammunition.
Nope.
Usually the magazines weren't even attached to most of them. None of them were in condition 2.
Yep. No, none of them were ever even in amber.
Nobody was finger fucking them.
No, I don't see. This is the level of care that, again, hey, guess what's not anybody in the gun community can tell you that keeping a firearm that's loaded, that was a ready, locked and loaded, one in the chamber, it was red. Okay, it was red.
He could have had this mechanical safety on, but he didn't even have that.
Don't store your loaded firearm in a pocket. That's like the worst place in my mind to have a loaded firearm. If I'm concealed carrying, I have a CPL. If I'm concealed carrying, that thing is in a dedicated holster that's designed for the weapon, specifically designed for the weapon.
Or a leather one that's malleable.
Or a leather one, right?
Yeah.
That's really, really close to being, might as well be made for that specific firearm. And that's either an appendix carry or it's outside on my hip. Those are the only situations in which I would be carrying a firearm. And if I'm going to draw on the appendix carry, I am coming up, still finger out, no gripping, nothing like this. It is only on the grip, ensuring it's on the grip, coming out. This is if I'm like in situ, needing to just take it off my person.
Yeah.
Of course, in a situation where you need to defend yourself, that's different. This guy, that's
why you do lots of training with dry fire and lots of training with raw ammo to get the muscle movements so that when it does hit the fan and you are in trouble, you don't even have to think about it. It's just muscle memory.
Even further, this guy, if you have a firearm in your pocket, dude, stand up. Like that would have gone quite a bit better, I believe, if he just stood up and actually had the wherewithal to actually focus on the task at hand, which is a loaded firearm in your pocket next to your twig and berries.
What I'm wondering is how many other objects are in his pocket, right? Where theoretically, right, if this is the trigger guard, right? So that's your trigger guard, right? How does he have enough bullshit to as he's rummaging around in there to get into the guard and then
you see what it was is in any pocket that if you're sitting and you have to get something in your pocket, you do this sort of creeping movement, right?
So you think he actually pulled the trigger? I feel
he actually pulled the trigger. He was trying to get to get purchase and coax it up to grab, and he just shot one off because of complete negligence. And we can theorize the legality of that firearm. I don't think we need to. Again, the argument that people who
What do you
buy
think?
firearms legally can also fuck up, and they do.
Could you give me a guesstimate as to his favorite shooting stance?
Yeah, sometimes people, you can't be messing around with firearms, okay? It's too easy to do the right thing. Pay attention. It's not a toy. It's not a status symbol. It is a tool that can literally remove pieces of you.
It can be a status symbol if you're rich enough.
If it's like a gold-plated deagle, it's a status
Or
symbol.
apparently HK. But here's the deal. You shouldn't drink and use guns, and you shouldn't be high when you use guns.
Correct.
If it just, same with motor vehicles, to bring the analogy back full circle, like you can't drink and drive, you'll get busted. Some states, they do have a way to measure and determine what is and is not the legal limit of being high.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the science behind that is, and I don't even care.
And
I'm not
as
exactly.
A slight aside, the amount of vehicles that I come across that are just reeking of weed, I think they should carry the same penalties as driving under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah, it should be very similar.
I think it should be the similar penalties.
Yeah.
The legality of weed in many states is recreational use. That means at home, not sitting in a parking lot smoking in your car. Keep that shit at home.
Yeah.
Smoke it at home and stop smoking in your car. Stop smoking and going in your car high and going freeway speeds. Stop doing that.
Even if I was still a libertarian, and I no longer am, I still, at that time, did not care for the smoking of weed. And the thing is, the reason why people are smoking in their cars in a parking lot is because they don't own their own freaking home. They're still with mom and dad, right? And that's fair. Yeah, shit happens, man, right? The economy sucks. I'm not judging. And frankly, I got a good friend of mine who still lives at home, but he has a good job at the USGS. And he was like, bro, why are you living in an apartment? When I got out of the Army, he was like, wait, why are you living in an apartment? You should just live with your folks. And I'm like, well, you're doing it, but why are you doing it? And he told me, well, he's saving money. He's going to buy a house. I was like, you know what? Fair.
Right.
But like, the thing is, these people are not the people that like love their parents, right? They're like, fucking mom and dad, they won't let me smoke crack, or something like that, right? So they got to do it out of the house. If you can't own your own house, even if I was a libertarian, I'm not. Even if you better do it in your own house, don't do it in your parents' house. If you're not responsible enough to have your own house, you are certainly not responsible enough to smoke weed or crack.
Want to be within like United States code. Like I want it to be a constitutional right to where if you are smoking weed in public or you reek of weed and you dare complain that you're being oppressed and you're too poor, I would love for it to be code that people around you could just start beating the shit out of you. I wish that was the case.
Well, the only way this could be not political terrorism would be you have to hit them with silly objects.
Wacky things,
like a fresh fish, or a satchel of hats, or a rubber mallet, but it's actually nice rubber, not hard rubber. You have to be able to do physical harm to the person you're allowed to.
Satchel,
because hats on their own aren't like, you're not going to hurt anybody. Whacking someone with a ball cap, right?
Yeah.
But like
a satchel of hats,
a whole damn satchel,
a whole satchel. Like how big of a satchel? Like we're talking like a standard satchel size,
we're
like
talking,
one imperial satchel unit.
I'm thinking in newtons, kilonewtons, right? So I'm thinking like maybe 20 bags, satchel swings to leave a bruise.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Like, and a bruise being defined as discoloration of notice
on the skin. Yeah,
on the skin.
About like maybe 3 to 4 inches in diameter.
Okay, that's very good. And we can probably. Is there a limitation on the types of hats? Fedoras, baseball caps?
If you can't see the hats, that's fine.
If you can't see the hats, okay, so you can just. This is when we have to have policing to make sure that the satchels of hats are actually satchels of hats.
That sounds like an unconstitutional search and seizure of the,
of the
satchels.
Yeah, so we have another amendment that actually fixes that.
They'll interfere. So we have privacy laws. Can't check the satchel.
Totally, I'm so down for this. I think we should. I'm going to contact my local Congress critter.
Yeah, same.
And propose this legislation. I think everyone would benefit from it.
I'm gonna go spill spaghetti at him at Denny's.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us on episode 57. Again, join us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Join us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Again,
And don't forget to buy the merch.
Don't forget to buy the merch at the store. Thank you all so much. And as always, have a good one.